During the 1960s, racial discrimination was very high. Different colors had separate ways of living and everyday lifestyles. Races had to use separate bathrooms, water fountains, and different restaurants. The biggest discrimination was between the whites and the blacks. Not only was it between races, it was between gender. Men thought that women were not capable of doing the same things they did. Shirley Chisholm was a big influence on many women and African Americans. She knew what she was capable of doing and ignored the discrimination towards her.
The following program is brought to you in living color on WNBC TV.
Because nowadays, if anybody says that they are leaders, they must have the courage and the guts to take a stand and not equivocate and not straddle consistently and persistently. If not, you have no right to leadership.
On November 30th, 1924, Shirley Anita St. Hill Chisholm was born in Brooklyn, New York. Chisholm was the oldest of 4 children to immigrant parents Charles St. Hill and Ruby Seal St. Hill. Shirley spent her early childhood in Barbados, living on her maternal grandparents' farm with her siblings, while her parents worked during the Great Depression to settle the family in Bedford-Stuyvesant. While in Barbados, she attended excellent schools, receiving a British education, which was the basis of her strong commitment to education. She did not move back to America until May 19, 1934. Shirley graduated from Brooklyn Girls High in 1942 and graduated from Brooklyn College cum laude, receiving a BA in sociology in 1946. There she joined a debate team where she won many prizes. She then attended Columbia University and earned a master's degree in early childhood education in 1951. While in college, her professors encouraged her to consider a political career. After graduating college, she began her career as a teacher. She worked as a nursery school teacher and then as the director of 2 daycares from 1946 to 1953. She was also a director of the Hamilton-Madison Child Consultant for New York City's Bureau of Child Welfare from 1959 to 1965. In 1949, Shirley married Conrad Q. Chisholm, who was a private investigator. In 1964, Shirley ran for and became the second New York legislator that is African American. Before Congress, Shirley joined 2 political organizations called 17th Assembly District Democratic Club and Bedford-Stuyvesant Political League. In 1968, Shirley won a seat in Congress, becoming the first African American Congresswoman. Shirley Chisholm lasted from the 91st through the 97th Congress. Her biggest opponent while running for Congress was civil rights leader James Farmer. Shirley would only hire women as her staff.
That these collective talents and abilities should be utilized by all of us in order to try and help make this world a better place in which to live.
While Shirley was in Congress, she introduced more than 50 pieces of legislation. She championed racial and gender equality, the plight of the poor, and ending the Vietnam War. Only 8 of her 50 bills passed. Some of the successful bills that she provided were helping poor students go on to higher education, providing employment insurance coverage for personal and domestic employees, and she reversed the law that caused female teachers in New York to lose their tenure while they were out on maternity leave. On August 10, 1970, she delivered a speech on the floor of the U.S. House of Representatives urging support for the Equal Right Amendment. She mostly spoke out against the issue of abortion and women's right to choose. She also argued that money should not be spent for war, while many Americans were hungry, poorly educated, and without adequate housing. She fought for the same issues that she had been passionate about as a community activist. She fought for children's education and welfare, a guaranteed minimum income to help the poor, immigration rights, and women's rights.
Oh, I think it's quite well known that I don't enter most things with the blessings of any party. I think it's quite well known. Anybody who's followed my political career knows very, very keenly that I am the only unbought and unbossed politician. And I mean that literally. And I think that you have to recognize that because I am not white and because I'm not a male, that I am not going to get the blessings of the power structure in this country. So I think we're fooling ourselves when that question is asked. of me in terms of whether I'm going to get their blessings. Of course, I'm not going to get their blessings.
In 1971, Shirley founded the National Women's Political Caucus. In 1972, Shirley Chisholm declared her bid for presidency from a podium at the Concord Baptist Church. She was the first woman to run for a Democratic Party and the first African American to run for a major party nomination. Her slogan was "Fighting Shirley Chisholm, Unbought and Embossed." Shirley was not allowed to participate in televised primary debates, and she was permitted to make just one speech. During her campaign, she received 3 assassination threats towards her. While running for president, she spoke out about the judicial system in the United States, police brutality, prison reform, gun control, and drug abuse. She entered 12 primary ballots and garnered 152 of the delegates' votes. She lost to Senator George McGovern.
Deceit and deception, callousness and indifference to our individual problems, and the disgusting playing of divisive politics, pitting the young against the old, labor against management, North against South, black against white.
After running for presidency, she went back to Congress to serve for another decade. Some committees Shirley served on were Agriculture, Veterans Affairs, Rules and Education, and Labor. She became the second woman and the first African American to serve on the House Rules Committee. She played a critical role in legislation affecting women, children, and families, including the creation of the WIC nutrition program. She joined in local chapters of the League of Women Voters, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, the Urban League, and the Democratic Party Club in Bedford-Stuyvesant. Shirley divorced Conrad in 1977 and then married Arthur Hardwick Jr., a New York legislator that same year. In 1982, Shirley Chisholm retired from Congress to help her husband, who had been injured in an automobile accident. He later died in 1986.
I realize that this is a rough road, but a catalyst for change in a society is usually persona non grata with those who have been the beneficiaries of the system. A catalyst for change has to be able to withstand the insults, the humiliations, the abuses, and the slurs. What's wrong with my running for president of this country? After all, for 15 years, I have been the ghostwriter for a lot of them.
After leaving Congress, she co-founded the National Political Congress of Black Women and campaigned for Jesse Jackson's presidential bids. She was also a Purrington professor at Mount Holyoke College in Massachusetts, where she taught courses in sociology and political science from 1983 to 1987. In 1985, she was the visiting scholar at Spelman College. In 1987, she retired from teaching altogether. In 1991, she moved to Florida and was offered to be the U.S. Ambassador of Jamaica by President Bill Clinton, but later declined due to poor health.
Until and unless we take care of people being productive and feeling wanted and needed and ending up on the employment rolls of a nation, rather than the unemployment rolls of a nation, we will not have domestic peace.
On January 1st, 2005, Shirley died of a stroke in Ormond Beach, Florida. She was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 2015. Nick Perry, the state assemblyman from the 58th District of New York, introduced a bill making November 30th of each year Shirley Chisholm Day in the state of New York. In 2014, she was honored by the U.S. Postal Service with the issuance of a limited edition Black Heritage Forever stamp. Shirley wrote 2 books during her lifetime. Her first book was in 1970 titled Unbought and Embossed, and her second book was in 1973 titled The Good Fight. Shirley Chisholm said that she did not want to be remembered as the first black woman to be elected to Congress and not as the first black woman to have made a bid for the presidency of the United States, but as a black woman who lived in the 20th century and dared to be herself.
We shall not be moved. We shall not be moved like a tree that's planted by the water.